I'm super excited to bring you this tutorial, guys. This is something that I'm really passionate about, and I really want to bring you this slowed down version so that you could try to do this for your patients, because I think it's really powerful. This is free software from TrueAbutment, and there's a magical combination here. You could go to their website and download their True Suite, which comes with PYLON and Trust. Now, PYLON is based off of Dentique Guide, which is usually pay to export software, but here it is absolutely free from TrueAbutment. You're going to go ahead and start a new patient, click the tooth you're doing your surgical guide on. In this case, I'm doing number 8, and then go ahead and click all the things you want, like crown, implant planning, and implant guide, and then load your DICOM. Now, your DICOM needs to be a multi-frame DICOM file. And what that means, it needs to have a folder that contains, hundreds of little slices individually, versus one DICOM file. So that's important to distinguish. That likes to have the multi-frame files. And then you're going to click any one of those images and load that in. And then you're going to go ahead and load the upper scan data. And it does have like an AI auto matching ability. You're going to go ahead and load the lower scan data as well. And there we have all the files loaded in. Those are your object browser on the top right. And then you're going to proceed on to the wizard bar on the top of the center of the screen to go through the various steps. And here we're picking our, we're drawing our parametric curve. And you could see the model already pinned to the CBCT. If it didn't, you could go through a manual alignment, which I'm not going to go into because honestly, it seems to do a very good job at pinning automatically, and it gives you that color map. But the manual alignment is basically, like I just showed, clicking 3 common points. That's it, between the left and right images. And then it's going to throw in some tooth. It knows that you're doing tooth number 8, so it gives you this generic tooth with a compass. And the compass is pretty standard, where you could rotate, scale, and move by clicking on the tooth to put it into position. You could turn on your antagonist to see where it sits in occlusion, which I think is very important, especially for the anterior, to make sure that you're going to have a potential to have a screw retained restoration if that's what you're going for. And you could see using the compass is very intuitive. If you click the green areas, you could stretch and morph. If you click the red, you're rotating. And so once you have your tooth waxed up, you are now going to go ahead and start the design process for your actual surgical guide. Now, this is really intuitive. You have the ability to obviously check your occlusion here to make sure that it's proper before going on to the surgical guide design. And this is also why it's important, because the implant that it puts in is going to be based off of the CEJ location of your wax up and the incisal edge position. So check this out. So here we have our crown design. We have all of our information from our CBCT data, including implant centric view and all the various 3D renders that you would want to design a surgical guide, including our merged model. And you're going to go ahead and click on the tooth pictogram, tooth number 8, and pick the guide that you want, or I should say the implant that you want. Now, I've switched to Urus implants about 5 years ago, never looked back, but you could actually hack this system and do Nobel, Straumann, and basically almost any other implant brand by changing your drill offsets and tube diameter settings. August at Mod West has a tutorial on how to do that. But here, it automatically put that implant in right where I waxed up my tooth. That is super cool. I think that's powerful. And you could, instead of switching implant sizes, you could actually just stretch this little green bubble, and it automatically changes the implant size to the next longer size. In addition to that, you could change the sleeve height. In this particular case, this is a fully guided Urus implant, which is TrueAbutment's brand of implant. It is a phenomenal implant with a deep internal conical connection with Morse taper. It has SLA surface with a huge platform shift, so I'm comfortable placing it subcrestal. And the nice thing about that system, I think, is that the guided kit is pretty powerful and easy to use. Their PYLON kit, which is all keyless, it uses pylons. And here I am changing the sleeve height to the next step in the drill kit, which is super intuitive here. And so it's all pre-programmed. There's no mathematics that you have to do. Okay, so once you have the implant planned where you want it, this is the stage where you actually do your surgical guide. And so here I just hit the plus sign for the lasso, and I'm drawing I'm circumscribing the area to which I want my guide to seat. And you could change things like the gap to teeth, which should be about 150 microns if you're using Sprint Ray, about 100 microns for most other systems. And the gap to sleeve should be about 100 to 120 microns, so that your sleeve snaps in and fits passively. And then from here, I'm going to add some windows by hitting the little various different shape icons. You could add bars, slots, grooves, windows, all sorts of things in this tool. I like to add a plethora of these little windows here. And once you get them positioned, you double click them in place and then click them again to move and rotate them. And then you hit the bottom button there, which looks like a surgical guide. It's going to go ahead and cut those holes in place so that you could verify seating. And that's basically it. Now I'm going to speed through this next part where I'm going to hit the Launch Trust software. And if you don't change any of the settings, it's going to automatically load all your files and your scan body. So let me show you what I mean by that. So here it preloads the case if you don't change to tie base or anything like that, and you keep it custom screw, custom abutment. It'll load the scan body in and automatically actually pin it. So you don't actually do anything here to align it because it already knows the alignment coming over from the PYLON software. So you see it virtually seated a scan body right where you planned your implant. And from here now, as long as you don't change anything, you're able to design a custom abutment and a crown. And this could be powerful if you're sending off to a lab to get milled. Pre-surgically, you could definitely send it to True Abutment and they can mill it for you out of titanium, or you could mill it out of a blank, or you could 3D print it. And so I'm just going to blow through this really quick because I want to get to the tie-based workflow, which is a little bit different. So basically, this is their Trust suite, which lets you design crowns and abutments, and it automatically will kind of ditch the tissue. And you just follow the wizard up top and go through the process. It does a really good job. It created a crown and a custom abutment. And of course, I could manipulate the crown, the wax up. I could freeform it, morph it, smooth it, scale it, rotate it. And then also that changes the bottom abutment design automatically. And here I'm just kind of melting the corner to try and make it round to look like her other front tooth. There's no mirror feature currently, but for free software, actually, this is probably one of my favorite implant design softwares, and they're still actively working on it, making it better. Here I'm adjusting the finish line where my abutment would be to make that subgingivally, and it automatically then creates an abutment, and then I could actually smooth and edit that abutment pretty heavily using all these kind of sculpting tools. And what I find is pretty cool about this is it's easy, and it doesn't let you create like undercuts and bad things like that. So here we have a crown, full contour crown design with an abutment. Now, if you wanted to create like a little custom healer, all you do is just melt your custom abutment into like a little button. And here you could kind of freeform it. Like, let's say you were worried about you not getting torque and you're going to put like a bridge there, or a Maryland bridge or something. You could have a little custom healer down there with a crown on top. And then you could screw that directly into the fixture. Again, this is risky. I do this sometimes, and I have not had a lot of issues. Screw loosening is the worst thing that could happen here. I've had one or two break. But the other thing, and then you could export all those files. It's open. So here's my crown design and with the screw hole, and there's my abutment, which I've turned into a little custom healer there, a little button that could then be printed and screwed in. Now, some printers don't print that hex really well. Use at your own risk there. A more tried and true workflow would be a tie-based workflow. So let me show you that. To do that, you actually have to do a few little extra steps. It's definitely worth talking about though, because you could skip the direct to fixture and go to tie-based. And so what you do in this particular case is we're going to go ahead and generate some models that we could then bring into the True Suite Trust software to design our crown on. And the models are going to to easily be generated right here in the PYLON software. And I find working with the solid models really helps sometimes, just to have the export, the scan body file and all that kind of stuff. So let me show you how we do that. And so essentially, if you look, there's a bunch of options when you get done with your surgical guide plan that you have to do. We just showed you how to hit the run trust, and that brings in the ability to do a custom abutment. If you go to the model creator, you have the ability to create nice 3D printable upper and lower models. I just like doing this to clean up the models before bringing them in trust and designing on a tie base sometimes, but I also just want to show you how to do it. You basically circumscribe the area and it creates a solid or a hollow model, and you could actually change the wall thickness and everything like that. If you're printing, I would recommend a wall thickness of 2 millimeters. And here I'm doing the same thing on the maxillary arch, where I'm basically just drawing a margin line and then hitting the little model icon, and it's going to automatically create a hollow model. Make sure your path of insertion is correct, and you can hit set from view. You want to be looking, you could see that green arrow floating in the air. You want the path of insertion to be looking straight down when you do this. Okay, so from here now, we could actually export all of our files. First, you could export the upper and lower right here and save them in a folder where you know where to find them. So I'm going to go ahead and just save them so I could find them later. And this is going to export the upper and lower in occlusion. The next thing that we then need is the scan body scan, which True Abutment allows you to export in their PYLON software separately. And so I'm going to show you how to get that scan body scan out there, and it will be automatically aligned to these models that we just created. And again, this is the missing link, is getting that scan body scan out so that we could design pre-surgical. So right there, now you're going to export the surgical guide and the scan body scan. And so now if we look at the files, let's see. Yep, so we should have all the files that we need. If we could take a look at them here, we have a solid kind of upper, or actually that's hollow. That wall thickness would be a little bit too thin for 3D printing. You risk fracture or warping. So remember, you want about 2 millimeter wall thickness for printing, and you could change that in the settings right there when we were designing that. So again, this is a cool feature, even if you just wanted to get some models and do it really fast. Again, they're in occlusion. And then look, if we come over here now and export the scan body scan and bring it in, look, it has it already merged to the nice model that you created. So now, okay, so now we have everything that we need to design tie base restorations. And so we're going to open our Trust software. And now we're going to start a new patient. And again, this is different than the last workflow where you launched Trust directly from the PYLON software, because there's a bug that doesn't bring the files over if you change to tie base for some reason. And so now I'm selecting the appropriate files, just as I showed you, the upper, which would be the scan body, then the lower, and then the soft tissue, which would be the upper without the scan body. And then now I'm changing to tie base, and they have the variable height tie bases, which are phenomenal. Usually once just locked down to only CEREC users, but the custom variable base tie bases are awesome. GH1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we're going to rotate the model, and you want to be looking straight on with your model to where the crosshairs are right on like the midline and right on the incisal edge of 8 and 9. And see, so now we have our scan body scan, and we're going to come over here and pick CEREC base. And by the way, they have these available for like every implant manufacturer almost. That's incredible. But here I'm picking Urus. And you pick 3 dots on the scan body there and 3 coincident dots on the scan body there. And remember, this is coming over from our surgical plan. So this is not an intraoral scan of a scan body. That is from the plan. So that's pretty awesome. And remember, we could talk about how you could do timing with your guide and all things like that. But now I'm picking the subcritical contour line of my restoration. This is just basically clicking those red balls and moving them where you want. If you need an additional red ball, you could click that green line and we'll add more balls. And then it's going to generate that subcritical contour, which is super cool. And now you could go ahead and design your crown. Now for the crown, it gives you just a generic shape put right on top of your margin line. And you have the powerful ability to, again, use the compass. I really like compass features and softwares. You could rotate, scale, and manipulate the tooth, looking at occlusion and size of edge position and all those things. And so we're going to go ahead and once we have the tooth, we're going to go ahead and have it kind of suck back down to the margin. That's what it's kind of thinking about right here. And once it does that, you're going to have the ability to freeform, sculpt, and smooth things. So now it's kind of sucked down to that subcritical contour line that we selected, and it's all one kind of piece on the tie base. And so we have the ability to come into our morph tools and we could smooth and add. And I encourage you guys to play around with these features. There's the add, smooth, and remove tools, and you could really just customize the shape of the tooth and smooth out your subcritical contour line to create that skinny emergence. Whatever shape your heart desires, there's a lot of literature on what constitutes a good subcritical contour shape. The reverse S shape is what I like to use in the anterior. And try not to have it too bulky in the interproximal areas because you could cause that tissue to ride up and blunt your papilla. And you really want to give adequate space for the tissue. Don't try to think of what a root is shaped like. That is kind of not the correct thinking for implant restorations. It's not nature mimicking in that regard. So it should be a skinny emergence off the tie base into kind of this concavity on the facial, so you get plethora of thickness of that tissue and it doesn't start to ride up and and gives you more stable contours. And now from here, we're going to adapt our occlusion and proximal contacts. And that is basically it. We're finished and we could export these files. I mean, guys, this is so cool. Export these files and look at what we have. We have a tie base crown for free from software pre-surgically that we can now place that implant, do it timed, which if you guys don't know what timing is, it's the rotation of the hex based off of the surgical plan, and then screw in a prosthetic. As always, guys, I really appreciate y'all and your support of me at the Mod Institute, and I can't wait to see what you do with this technology.